Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. How are we doing today, chat? How's it going? I just took a shower. My hair is all weird. Hope we're having a good time. Hope you're getting into the weekend. And, well, I guess halfway through the weekend, right? Dude, my week has been a damn roller coaster. It's crazy. And, the funny thing about this, I kind of mentioned it on Locals a little bit, is like when you're semi-public, everybody thinks like everything is always something, and they always think they know what it is, which is kind of entertaining. They're almost always wrong about it though. So, it's a weird thing, but hey, life hits, right? And if you're just like doing a regular job, you either go to your job or you call in or whatever. If you're like a streamer and you have to broadcast, you have two options. You can either you can go and do the stream or the show or whatever, and you can kind of like either fake your way through it or not, or you can not do the show. And sometimes that's what it comes down to. And I really did not want to cancel Friday's show at all. I really kind of fucking hated it, but it would have been one of the worst shows I could imagine doing. So that wasn't going to happen. It's just not, sometimes it's just not conducive to doing this gig. So, with that though, I decided, I really wanted to do a stream on Friday anyway. Just because the day didn't work out doesn't mean there's not another day. I mean, Saturday's here. So I decided, well, instead of like doing something else, I don't know, I didn't have any plans, but I also didn't, I decided not to make any. I could have played disc golf. So is that what the kids do? Play disc golf. So I decided, well, maybe I should do a Saturday show. And that way, if people are around, they can hang out and we can do it. And not like a goofy, like a normal Saturday show, or a Saturday show that would be a normal weekday show in other instances. Because, Thursday was a surprise and Friday was a surprise. Thursday was a surprise of the good variety. Friday, a surprise of the bad variety. And you're just like, life is weird, man. It's very strange. But hey, I guess that's how my week's going. So anyway, long story short, apologize for canceling the show 2 days in a row. Was not in the outlined agenda. It was really kind of shitty that it happened that way, but it did. And so now here we are on a Saturday. We've got a couple topics to hit through. Could I do the show from the shower? Yeah, I could. Yeah, that'd be fine. I mean, I guess you'd have to be worried that like how you have your camera mounted might like, you got to make sure you don't have the swivel problem where it goes too far, like Instagram girls do on purpose or whatever. With that, we've got some topics today. We've got, they're kind of Trump focused because there's some big rulings that have happened in his January 6th criminal trial. Well, first in the January 6th civil trials, which went to appeals. Then in the January 6th criminal trial, a new order just dropped now, which was clearly waiting on the appeals court in the civil trials. And that's great. The lower court ruling on the criminal trial basically doesn't matter because it's got to be almost a guaranteed shot to the Supreme Court. They have to round out presidential immunity from criminal charges, and they have to do it relatively soon. The civil appeals ruling doesn't surprise me, but I do think it's incorrect. And I'll be interested to see that thing go up to the Supreme Court. They can probably merge those two questions into one petition if they want to do that. But they're going to have to answer these two questions. We're going to talk about those. First, though, we're going to focus on where I'm right. Always say that, mostly tongue in cheek because it's just fun. But Ty was on the other day, and we were both talking about this, his civil fraud trial up in New York relating to the valuation of himself and his properties and all of that stuff that's brought by New York District Attorney Letitia James in a special proceeding that does not allow a jury trial, only has the government have to bear the burden of civil liability. And the judge has actually pre-ruled that Trump is guilty, which is it's just like it's a disaster. And this is why we're going to talk about, he's had some expert witness testimony that comes out, and it shows that the ruling that was made was absolutely not a correct ruling. And we'll talk about, it relies on the principles of summary judgment, which is how the judge ended up ruling. And the element, one of the critical elements for summary judgment is that you have to have a material fact in dispute. And the testimony that they've had, plus expert testimony coming up, show that there is definitely material facts in dispute. And they have to get this stuff on the record in the trial. It has to be on the record because then it's got to go to the appeals court. And once they get that on appeal, then they'll be appealing the whole decision. And we got to see, in my opinion, which doesn't mean much of anything, but the appeals court has to reverse and remand for at least a trial. This shouldn't be at summary judgment, not under this judge. I mean, all of the other stuff notwithstanding, the judge's bias, the bias gag orders and all that crap. We do have to, this civil fraud trial, it should at least go to trial at the worst case, because we have tons of facts in dispute. We're going to talk about those. We're going to talk a little bit about Rittenhouse. He's been doing the interview circuit. I'm hoping to have him on very soon. We've talked about doing an interview. And so my schedule's open to him as soon as he has some time. But he was just on with Piers Morgan, and I saw a clip about it. And I don't know how the whole interview with Piers went. I imagine it's a catastrophe because Piers essentially just kind of sucks. Like, he'll sometimes say something cool, but most of the time he's just an idiot. But yeah, Piers had him on and he asked some questions, and Kyle's response is pretty good. He basically says, that he doesn't think that's really an appropriate question. He tries to answer in a way that stays in the line of appropriateness. And then Piers pushes him on it again, which I think is kind of a dick move by Piers, because he's not, in my opinion, trying to get to a tough answer. He's trying to utilize the question to push a social narrative. And I really don't like that. And I think the narrative against Kyle Rittenhouse is very, very unfair. So we'll cover that as well. I've been asked to talk about the stabbing of Derek Chauvin again, because it's now been revealed he was stabbed 22 times, and he was stabbed by a former Fed informant. Now, I still maintain that there's no reason that the feds needed to perform this, and that there's nothing. Well, before there was nothing. Now there's something that indicates that maybe there is some federal involvement. It is possible. I said it was possible. I just said, like, the easy answer at the time, based on the evidence we had, was that, well, I mean, he's just going to get stabbed eventually in prison or killed because he's this high profile, quote unquote, racist. Like, he's like the most famous cop criminal that exists. So we'll get into that a little bit somewhere in there, and maybe we'll get to another couple topics. I don't know. The show is probably not going to be super long tonight. Those are the fatal words I always say, and then it's like 9 hours. But no, I'm planning just 2.5 to 3 hours, and to keep things moving. You can take that however you want. I'm like, I don't know what I was going to say there at all. That was weird. My brain just kind of broke in the middle of it. I went roller skating today. God, I love roller skating. It's great. Didn't you guys do not on roller blades? I don't like roller blades. I think roller blades are for other people. For me, I like roller skates, the quads, just roller skating around. But when you take kids roller skating, you know, you're like not always able to do it much because you have to like monitor them the whole time. Uh, but it's still fun. It's still fun. And Lady Raggets and our younger son got to win the Rubik's Cube machine, which is like one of these, all arcades are full of basically physical games now. They don't really do too many of the classic like stand-up boxes and joystick and buttons. Everything's like now about tickets, or it's like a phone game that is just brought into an arcade for no discernible reason. And I kind of hate that, but there's a Rubik's Cube game. It's like the Wheel of Fortune showcase showdown where you'd spin the giant wheel, right? Like an old lady would jump up and like and do a reverse pull up and spin the wheel. You do that, but with a Rubik's Cube that's big, and then it spins a electronic wheel, so it's a liar. And then if you keep pumping in money within a time limit, it'll accumulate your progress. And eventually, like if you get 5 sides, not all 6, 5 sides of the Rubik's Cube, they'll give you the 6th one for free, I guess, and then you win the big jackpot. So they got to do that. It was a blast. We had a good time doing that. We got to meet some friends and their kids and go roller skating. It was good. It was good. So it said, what is your point? Well, maybe you're not talking to me. My point was, I went roller skating and it was fun today. I don't know. I think that was the point. Oh, because if you saw 5 to 6, it must be correct. Yeah, well, true. Yeah, I guess. Hey, that's smart. I didn't even think about that. No, see, you're right, 100%. Luis Velez says, "Is it possible to roller skate and not look gay?" No, of course not. Of course not. On Locals, AG Biochemist says, also the deposition tapes of the January 6th committee witnesses were destroyed. The transcripts are still present, but can we trust them? Oh, of course you can trust them. Of course you can. No, that's funny because in one of Trump's trials, he made a request based on the information coming out about the January 6th evidence and statements made by, I think intelligence committee members and stuff like that, asking where the evidence is and why some of it's missing. And Trump's like making a demand for the evidence. The judge's like, you got no reason to believe there's any evidence missing. Like, wait a minute. But that's all part of these Trump things. And the Trump, again, the Trump lawsuit topic, Trump in general is not my favorite topic. I mean, he's funny. Don't get me wrong. I like him. But I hate when it gets into this place of everything is Trump all the time. But he's such a dominant force in news media because they need the clicks. So they're going to cover him. And then he's doing this stuff with the law where he's always in the cultural eye. So that's why there's a bunch of Trump shit going on the channel right now. It's actually, again, it's not my favorite thing to cover, but I do find the legal issues really interesting. And the rulings today that came out over the past couple of days are really, really fucking important. So without further ado, I think we should get into those probably rather than me just rambling on about roller skating. Just wanted to share with you guys some humanity. Okay. Geez. Don't get mad about it or whatever. Roller rinks are sketchy as fuck though. Right Bros RC says he is doing stuff with the law. Well, I mean, he's making arguments through his lawyers that could become actual constitutional law. Yeah. So yes, he is. Of course, they're doing stuff to him as well. But it's just weird. I don't know. Oh, real quick. Did you guys also see Elon Musk? Maybe I don't think this was on Wednesday with the advertiser thing, advertiser boycott. He's like, yeah, go fuck yourself. I think we did talk about that. I think that was Wednesday. That's good shit. Oh, and George Santos, he's gone. He got voted out of Congress finally, I guess. So that was great. It's so weird how difficult it is to remove elected people from office. Is that a warm Fanta? It's a warm crush. It's a warm crush. Mm. John says, yeah, we all saw it, Nick. We aren't 3 days behind like you. Welcome to my life, man. Always running down information, people, and hopefully people only in crosswalks or whatever. All right. Here we go. Let's pull this up and get moving. So this is this is the fraud trial. Now we've got the first part of the fraud trial. Some major testimony happened this week from Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank, one of Trump's primary lenders, has testified that Trump was basically perfect and they're not a victim, which is great. So it's the third week of the defense testimony. Reps from Deutsche Bank, which New York says was defrauded, described prospering thanks to Trump. On Wednesday, internal documents showed the bankers practically swooning over Trump's billions. This is what I was talking about this. Ty was talking about this with me. Banks love money. They love money. They love people with money. They will do all sorts of shit to get money. More money. More money. They need to. So anybody who has any amount of money on deposit is a massive value to banks. And so to come in here and be like, Trump, like the reason I brought all this, I brought that up is because they say Trump defrauded these banks by overinflating values. But obviously these banks are doing due diligence. Obviously, these banks are not ridiculous entities. They've been doing this forever. They have massively robust risk assessment teams and processes. Now, for normal mortgages and personal lines and personal loans, to average consumers like you and me, they don't have a special process. They have a process that's written down, I should say. They have a process, but not a specialized process that involves teams of people and sort of alternative investigations that need to happen. So if you or I go into a bank, we want to get a mortgage on a house, like a normal home loan. We're like, look, we just need a small loan of $1 million. You're going to buy a house like $300,000, right? Good luck finding one, I guess, right now. From what I understand, it's pretty fucking difficult. But you're going to go in, $300,000. You're going to put some money down, and then you're going to borrow the rest, or maybe you'll borrow all of it if you get the right kind of loan or whatever. And the bank's just got a bunch of check boxes. Is their credit score within this and this? Do they have these things? Do they have an income that they can prove, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? They're going to just nail out those things, and then that's it. Really simple process. Approve, deny. They can make some flexible exceptions here and there, but a lot of those exceptions are already baked into the process. Like, for example, if you're a doctor and you're doing your residency, you don't make a ton of money, but they know that that doctor, when they get out of their residency, is likely to make a bunch of money over the next couple of years. So they actually have a specialized mortgage product for doctors who are in residency, because they'll keep the initial payments really low, basically subsidize some of the payment on the initial loan, some of the interest on the initial payments on the loan. They'll subsidize it and add it to the principal for later, because the income is expected to rise, and then the payment will rise on a steady schedule based on the predicted income increase. So they have products like this to deal with these exceptional scenarios already. What they don't have is products that are just geared towards, billionaires in a cookie cutter way, because billionaires aren't cookie cutter people. They have different types of assets. They have different access to assets. They have different liquidity. They have different debts and liabilities. They have brands that can be based on long-standing names that are hard to deny. They could be upstart billionaires who made a bunch of money in crypto and have no reliable income to support their new amounts of money that they have. And so they have to assess all of these things very specifically. And that's, that's what's going on with Trump is they're having to do this. So by mentioning all of the due diligence that they have to do in these types of transactions, and then saying that Trump somehow tricked them or hoodwinked them was nonsense because they don't need Trump's, like they'll take Trump's numbers, but they don't need them. They'll get their own. So they practically swooned over Donald Trump's real estate fortune, according to internal documents made public by the defense in his New York civil fraud trial. Trump was seen as a wealthy but fiscally responsible whale who could open doors to his own billions and those of his network of fellow moguls, the documents disclosed. Yes, this is exactly how they think. They, and you all know who they are. The internal email, Wells Fargo employees, the internal emails and briefings, many more than a decade old, were shown on large screens in the Manhattan courtroom to bolster the defense claim that Deutsche Bank was once among the former president's most well-rewarded stands instead of his fraud victim, as state officials allege. I'm sorry. Did Business Insider use stands in an article? Okay. That's a little bit weird. There's stands? You can tell the perspective. They're really, Business Insider, for some reason, is actually angry about this. They're angry about Trump having a defense because they don't like him. Trump's lawyers have repeatedly argued that there's no victim in this case. We are whale hunting, the former Deutsche Bank executive Rosemary Vrablic told her fellow bankers of Trump in an email from 2011, soon after Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, offered to make an introduction. Whale hunting? What's that? They used stands in a sentence a second ago, and they're whale hunting. What could a bank mean? Oh my God. I fucking hate these people. I fucking hate. It's a term used when there is a very high net worth individual who is a prospective client. Frablick explained in a crisp voice on Tuesday after she was called to the witness stand by Trump's lawyers. The bankers sometimes called their whale the Donald, testimony showed. This endearment was apparently used just among themselves in internal emails during the heady early days of the Trump-Deutsche Bank relationship, when the bank eagerly loaned the soon-to-be president more than $400 million. It was money Trump used to develop his Miami golf resort, his Chicago skyscraper, and the old post office in Washington, D.C. Projects that burnished his reputation as a billionaire developer and helped propel him into the White House. Yes. Okay. All right. Here we go. Over on Locals, Raw sets his military special well of shots as penance for the loss of show. No. No. If we're going to do a military special stream, I'm going to grift it because I will hate every single fucking second of it. And not, I'm not planning on doing a military special stream tonight. That sounds awful. Okay. So given the circles this family travels in, we expect to be introduced to the wealthiest people on the planet. Vrablic rather breathlessly emailed her colleagues just 10 minutes into the banking relationship. The Chicago condos are selling like hotcakes, Vrablic said in an email to her fellow bankers 2 years later, displaying far more enthusiasm than on the stand Tuesday when she dryly translated hotcakes. Hotcakes. That particular term meant at a faster pace than we had expected, she testified under the direct examination by Trump attorneys. Trump has Jesus on his team, Jesus Suarez. Okay. So they're really happy about the relationship. everything's going well. Trump defrauded Deutsche Bank out of more than $100 million, the AG says. All right, so this is where we're going to get into this legal aspect of this. All right. So if you missed the introduction to the show, we're talking about why this testimony is so critical, why it has to be on the record. The judge in this case has ruled, he has made a ruling, the judgment or the verdict is in. Trump defrauded these banks. Trump defrauded Deutsche Bank, says the judge, Judge Engeron. He says Trump did the defrauding. Now, he ruled that on summary judgment. A summary judgment motion is decided by the judge. Excuse me. Carbonated fucking drinks, man. Oh, let's switch to Gatorade or something. Oh, do I have a? Yeah. I got a Propel. Very happy about this. So the judge has ruled on summary judgment, and summary judgment happens when there is the legal standard. There is no genuine issue of material fact in dispute between the parties. So fraud has elements. Everything in law, every charge has elements, right? And you have to meet all of the elements, and then you have to show facts that show where the elements have been met. Okay. So the jury or the judge in a bench trial, jury in a jury trial, judge in a bench trial, are the finders of fact. Their job, first and foremost, is to find the facts that illustrate what happened the best they can do. Breck, yes, this is a civil trial. This is not a criminal trial, which is also why Trump does not get a jury in this case, because he could not get one. So he's only got the judge. But normally a judge or a jury are a finder of fact, which is why they're taking in all of the evidence, and then they're going to use that evidence to make determinations about what facts tell the story. And then that is going to be applied to jury instructions, where they will find out if they meet the burden for each element of every asserted action. All right. Summary judgment says, okay, all the facts exist. So a fact finder is not needed. The reason all the facts exist is because both sides have submitted their initial facts, usually through a complaint, and then maybe through some, through the motion paperwork for summary judgment. And they will say, we don't disagree on the facts. All of the facts that matter are covered here, and we agree on them essentially. So once we agree, we don't need a fact finder. Now we just need a judge to apply law, right? And you make this argument in your summary judgment motion. The other party makes an argument against it, or agreeing to summary judgment, but in their favor, however they want to do that. And then the judge makes a determination. Lots of times they get denied because there's a material fact in dispute. Now, in this case, Trump allegedly defrauds Deutsche Bank out of more than $100 million. Trump says, no, I didn't. Deutsche Bank does not seem to be of the opinion that he defrauded them. Yet the judge has already ruled via summary judgment that Trump did defraud them. And the only thing that's happening now, the trial that's still going on, is to find out only how much he defrauded them. So he did defraud them, now by how much. But here we have a huge problem. There's clearly a material fact in dispute going on here. Deutsche Bank doesn't feel the fraud. So now you've got a problem. This judge has a problem. He's got an appeal problem, effectively. But they've got to get this stuff on the record to round out the appellate record so they can get this thing overturned. So the former president has been on trial in the civil case for 9 weeks now, as has his company, the Trump Organization, 5 longstanding executives, including his 2 eldest sons. The defendants have not routinely attended the trial. They don't need to. They're not required to. Though they have cycled in and out of the courtroom as spectators and witnesses, Trump was compelled to testify last month under a state subpoena. He is scheduled to testify again as the final defense witness on December 11th. The judge presiding over the non-jury trial, State Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron. Now, I love how they write this, Business Insider. In New York, the Supreme Court is the trial court. It's the trial court. Like it's the district court level court. It's the lower court. But they're writing State Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron. A Supreme Court justice in New York is just a judge. That's just a normal judge. Every judge is that. He's not a special judge. He's not a high-ranking judge. He's just a judge. But I don't know if they actually even know that. Whoever wrote this video or this article from Business Insider, they seem retarded. He's already ruled that a decade's worth of Trump's annual net worth statements were fraudulent, finding that he exaggerated the value of his assets by at least $2 billion a year. First of all, I mean, how do you find that when they disagree and you're not supposed to be weighing evidence? But okay. State Attorney General Letitia James investigated Trump for 3 years before filing her fraud suit last year. Yeah, she was just investigating him for 3 years. It wasn't that she was just waiting for the election to come up. She contends that Deutsche Bank was defrauded out of more than $100 million in interest income. This is interest the state says that the bank could have charged using its own formulas had Trump been truthful about his worth. I'm not sure if it's in this article, but this is actually a complete lie. The expert from Deutsche Bank, it might have been this witness, it might have been a different one, testified that their interest rates that they charged Trump were the interest rates they would charge for anyone who had more than the required $100 million asset. I think it was assets to invest available. So Trump, and they said Trump, they actually had said they didn't agree with Trump's net worth numbers, but they didn't care because his net worth was so far over their required net worth numbers or the required access to funds that it didn't matter. It didn't matter if he was off by, he could have been off by $50 billion. It wouldn't have mattered because he was over the threshold. So he got the rates that you get when you're over $100 million in assets. Cool. They also said they often disagree with the net worth of high value clients. They often disagree with them, but it usually doesn't matter. So Dangerous Spaces says, if he overvalued, wouldn't they have got more interest in money? Am I missing something? The argument is this. The safer a loan is for a bank, the lower interest rate they are comfortable charging, right? So the allegation or idea is that if Trump says he's worth $5 billion, but he's only worth $3, that extra $2 billion might lower the interest rate that they would charge because he's more secure. But that's, according to Deutsche Bank, not true. The valuation only goes towards qualification for lending and lending at certain rates. Now, if they could show that Trump got some favorable treatment or something like that based on what his representation was, they can maybe start to make the fraud claim, because fraud requires you to get a benefit or to cause someone else harm. One of those two. Usually your benefit comes at the expense of someone else. They haven't shown that. They just decided it happened. By the way, what's up, Camelot and the Raiders from Camelot Show? Thank you for being here. Hope you guys had a good show over on Camelot. I would have loved to stop in, but this week kind of put me in different circumstances. So hope Naked Snake was great. Hope he had Zia and Steph the Alter Nerd and Epic Mike on. So it sounds like a fucking great show. Guys, go check out Camelot, good friend of the channel, on his YouTube and Rumble endeavors. Back to this Trump thing though. The Deutsche Bank, and again, I'm not sure if that's in this article or a different one. They testified that he didn't get any benefit from having a different net worth than what they assessed. Their assessment was sufficient to meet their requirements, and they really didn't care what his said. And they did say they often see other high net worth individuals where they come up with different outcomes, because how do you value stuff that you're not selling, right? Like, you're not selling your own house right now. So you say, well, my house is worth this. Well, I mean, it might be to you, now. But if you're like, I don't know, if you need a kidney or something, or heart, what do organs cost these days? If you need something and you need to get rid of the house for whatever reason, like, its value is going to drop based on how fast you want to get rid of it. If you don't want to leave your house, the value of the house is going to skyrocket to a place where it's, I know someone around here where I live, where there was a house that was kind of like, there are a lot of these access roads where, like, a house will be on a lot that's behind another house, and they have to get an easement for roadway access, right? It's one of those situations. And they wanted to buy the house in the back, wanted to buy the lot and the house of the person in front. And they offered them some ridiculous amount. This is all rumor, but they offered them like $1 million. And they're like, no, we just want to stay here. And this property is not $1 million property, not anything like it. Maybe like 300,000, something like that. And they're like, no, we won't take it. Well, then was the property's worth more than $1 million to the seller, right? So how do you value that? How do you do that? The best you can do is estimates. You can go by, market values and comparables, but some of these properties are pretty unique. Like, there aren't comparables to Mar-a-Lago. So that's why we get some of these discrepancies in the value, but they usually don't matter because the bank makes up its own mind. All right, so here we go. Oh, Mudbug1 says, missed you on Camel Thoughts, but glad to catch you live for once. Hey, welcome to it. Welcome to it. Dangerous Spaces says, they also said that overvaluing gave Trump better insurance rates, but that surely he would pay more in insurance. Again, what am I missing? Yeah, insurance wise, that one doesn't make sense. I agree with you. But yeah, all of this stuff feeds into the problem with this trial, is that there's a summary judgment saying that Trump defrauded these guys. And we've got ample evidence that no fraud ever took place. So here we go. This $100 million is part of the more than $250 million the state is asking for a trial for Trump to be ordered to pay back. Before retiring in 2020, Vrablic was the most hands-on banker dealing with Trump and his eldest children. Within a year of Kushner's introduction, Trump had moved $20 million in personal deposits to the bank, and Trump Jr. had also become a client, according to Vrablic email shown in court Tuesday. Ivanka Trump will become a client for sure, Vrablic wrote her fellow bankers in the email from late 2011, adding, she is the heir apparent of this empire. An attempt to turn victims into allies, one banker at a time. Again, look at how this article is written. An attempt to turn victims into allies. They weren't his victims. They're not his victims. None of the banks or insurance companies or any of these people, none of them have brought suit against Donald Trump. Not one of them. Everything against Donald Trump has been brought just by the Attorney General on behalf of these alleged victims who don't feel like victims, because they all got paid. They all got everything. Oh. Hey, what's up, Epic Mike? How you doing, brother? Mike, I'm going to mod you on the channel just so I can see you when you pop in here, but you don't do anything ever. Like, don't mod anything. I just want to make sure I see you when you pop in. Thanks for being here, buddy. But yeah, all of these alleged victims, none of them claim it. Just the Attorney General. So Vrablic was the third current or former Deutsche Bank executive called to the witness stand by the defense this week. Defense is trying to use Deutsche Bank's own executives to prove they were not defrauded by Trump. Well, I mean, yeah, that's what you would want to do, right? Oh, shit. I didn't want more carbonation. That you'd want to bring in the executives of the bank and be like, well, no, he didn't really defraud us. Okay. The defense has argued that as a sophisticated international lender, the bank did its own risk analysis apart from Trump's net worth statements. Yes. The defense has also argued that the bank walked away with more than $100 million in interest profits by the time Trump, who never missed a payment, paid off his final loan last month. But the state has countered that any fact-checking, any profit-making, and any other non-victim-like behavior on the part of Deutsche Bank is besides the point. The real point, as lead state attorneys Kevin Wallace argued Tuesday, is that you can't lie to a bank in financial documents. Testimony in the defense case continues Tuesday. But wait, did you see that? Why? Why can't you lie to a bank in financial documents? Why? The, the bank can lie to you. The bank can lie to you. Bank can lie to anybody. To the bank. To the bank. But anyway, the Deutsche Bank testimony has been just really, really terrible for the state. Very good for Trump in theory. In theory, very good for Trump. But he's got to take it to the appeals court. He can't undo the ruling. Judge Engoron has already ruled. And it's so fucking crazy that that's where this is. There was just summary judgment when there's obviously a dispute about what happened. But hey, that's where it is. They're going to try and get this all on the record so they can round out and bolster their appeals motion. The appeal is going to be hotly considered. And there's a whole bunch of avenues they have for appeal. They have obvious bias issues with the judge's clerk acting in very weird ways, clearly for media attention, which is kind of funny. But they also, just have this summary judgment ruling is really bad. And I mean, frankly, it's just a complete and utter disregard for justice and the rule of law. But does that surprise anybody? No, of course not, because it's Trump, so it's fine. Right? Karen Vaughn, 100 million, the bank made that much. I have the best house in the... Okay, so yeah, 100 million in interest profits. So he borrowed allegedly $400 million, paid that off over a pretty long period of time, like a decade, I guess. Who knows what the interest rate was? I think the interest rate was like 2.5 or 2.9, something like that. So you got, a couple percent on that big of a dollar amount is huge. Who knows what other loans they had? I don't know. But they allege that they've earned 100 million in profit from him. Guess it doesn't matter though, because facts don't matter when you've got Judge Engoron on the case. So this is a big one from Deutsche Bank. There's other testimony from other people at the bank. I'm not going to dwell on it because the main meat of it is there. The main meat of it is that we have this ruling. He's already found guilty at summary judgment, but now they're making the case that he shouldn't have to pay the full 250 million that's being requested, obviously. But the other part of this is that they're rounding out the record for the appeals. And in this case, bringing in bankers to say, yeah, the other banker testified, we did our due diligence. We actually checked these properties. We checked the values and we disagreed with Trump, but we didn't care. His net worth was high enough. He was not a risk to us. That was actually one of the specific things. He was never a risk to us. So we'll see how that eventually pans out. Probably not for a long fucking time though. Who's Trump to pay damages to? The state, of course. The state. All right, so here we go. Let's get this next one. This is a part of the next couple. The next Trump thing is a two-parter, we'll say. Why do you keep saying no cussing? Fuck off. There's going to be plenty of cussing in here. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, turd, and twat. There. Take that. All right. So this next Trump part is two parts. There's a civil case going on for Trump, and then there's a criminal case going on for Trump in regards to election subversion. There's actually multiple multiple of each of those, multiple civil cases, one criminal case. So the civil cases have been sitting on appeal, waiting for a ruling. The criminal case has been waiting for a motion based on the idea of presidential immunity. And the civil cases had motions for presidential immunity as well. They were appealed up to the New York Court of Appeal, or to the U.S. Court of Appeals, and the U.S. Court of Appeals just dropped the opinion that that Donald Trump does not have civil immunity for his insurrection actions on January 6th. Right? So, okay, let's take a peek at that. This is this is a weird one. Civil immunity, presidential civil immunity, has actually been around for a while. Presidents are immune from civil suits that involve their official duties. They're just completely immune. If a civil suit involves an official duty of a president, you can't bring a lawsuit against the president. Doesn't matter how good your claim is, can't do it. Now, if it involves acts that are outside the scope of his presidency, then you can bring a civil suit against him. That's the test. So then the question remains, Trump's actions on January 6th, are they part of Trump's official duties as president or not? I think they largely are. I can't see how they're not, actually. Trump's actions were to give a speech from the White House to people about his belief that the election was stolen or rigged or whatever. As the president, talking about frustration with an election system that would allow fraud to disenfranchise 80 million voters. This is what Trump is saying. So he's being sued over that. He's also being sued over other, I guess, election subversion attempts. They're kind of just lumping it into this idea. And it's obviously disingenuous, right? Like the wording of it is made to invoke this idea that Trump somehow is subverting the election. He never had the opportunity to. He never had the opportunity to subvert the election, or well, he never took the opportunity to do so. The election was done. The votes were cast. And then January 6th, a speech was given as the electoral votes were being counted. The electoral votes were counted. They went late into the night on January 6th, or I guess into the early morning hours of January 7th, but they were counted. And then the inauguration of Joe Biden on January 21st took place without a hitch. Nothing was subverted or stopped or interfered with in any way. Now, the worst argument you can make is that some of the people storming the Capitol delayed the vote or delayed the reading of the electoral votes by a couple hours. That's it. That's the worst logical take you can have on that, is that, or the worst take that is logical, is that that's the worst thing that happened. Is that maybe it was delayed by a couple hours, but it didn't seem to impact. If anything, it impacted people's votes for Biden, or took away people's opposition to the votes, is maybe a better way to word that. Because after the January 6th riot, so to speak, several Republican politicians who had planned to object to some of the state's ballots didn't do so. So therefore, I don't know how that causes interference, but hey, we're not looking for reasonable things here. But let's take a peek at these two articles. Whoops. I clicked the wrong thing. Where do we go? Doesn't matter. We'll take a peek. Trump may be sued over January 6th incitement claims, appeals court panel rules. 3-judge panel turned aside Trump's sweeping arguments that nearly all speech and conduct by an incumbent president should be shielded from lawsuits. I mean, nearly all speech and conduct of a sitting president is actually presidential duty, like all public appearances anyway. So Donald Trump can be sued over claims he incited violence On January 6, 2021, an appeals court ruled Friday, rejecting the former president's argument that he is entirely immune from being held liable for incendiary remarks that preceded the attack on the Capitol. They concluded Trump's actions as a candidate for president would not automatically be protected by presidential immunity. How? On January 6th, how is Trump a candidate for president? Riddle me fucking that. On January 26th, how is Trump a candidate for president? Or January 6th? The votes have been cast. He's not running. He can't. I mean, the only person getting votes on January 6th was Biden by absentee ballot. But like, he can't. It's not a campaign at that point. But that's what they've ruled, that this is his speech was a campaign speech. So I guess that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Yeah. It would not automatically be protected by presidential immunity, turning aside Trump's sweeping argument that nearly all speech and conduct by an incumbent president should be shielded from lawsuits, including several brought by members of Congress and injured police officers. Oh yeah, the ones brought by members of Congress, those definitely aren't politically motivated. When a first-term president opts to seek a second term, his campaign to win re-election is not an official presidential act, wrote Chief Judge Sri Srinivasan of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Gee, I wonder, let's see. Let's do the thing. Sri was appointed by... Let's see. He was appointed by... Go away. Oh, so he was an Obama guy. His solicitor, principal deputy solicitor general of the United States by Obama. And then he was judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the District Columbia Circuit, assumed office nominated by Barack Obama. There you go. And he took Merrick Garland's spot. So that's that guy. We'll see who the other two judges are. All right. The office of the presidency as an institution is agnostic about who will occupy it next. And campaigning to gain that office is not an official act of the office. I actually don't agree with this. I don't agree with this at all. But that being said, I don't see how this is campaigning when you are past you're not in campaign mode anymore. Campaigning is over. The votes have been cast. However, the appeals court left the door open for continued efforts by Trump to try and prove he was acting as president rather than as a candidate for re-election when he addressed the angry crowd at the Ellipse. The ruling, which Trump could challenge the Supreme Court, he should, is likely to reverberate in the federal criminal case where Trump is charged with seeking to subvert the 2020 election. Trump has also contended that he is immune from prosecution in the case by arguing his efforts were connected to his official duties. Spokesperson for the Trump campaign, Stephen Chung, called the ruling limited, narrow, and procedural. The facts fully show that on January 6th, President Trump was acting on behalf of the American people, carrying out his duties as president of the United States, Chung said. And I agree with this. What other reason is the president of the United States from the White House addressing the nation about the election other than official? I mean, that's an official act. I don't know how else to word that. The appeals court panel, which consisted of 2 Democrat appointees and 1 Republican appointee, did not rule that Trump was legally liable in any of the various suits filed against him and others over Jan 6, but it said a lower court judge acted correctly last year when he turned down Trump's initial bids to dismiss the suits. The ruling is not a pure victory for those suing Trump, and the panel repeatedly emphasized their narrow decision left thorny issues unresolved, such as whether Trump's 75-minute speech that preceded the Capitol riot was protected by the First Amendment. Though the appeals judges permitted the lawsuits to move forward, the court emphasized that Trump could still seek to prove he was acting in his official capacity as president when he exhorted the January 6th crowd to march on the Capitol to fight like hell and stop the steal. Panel also wrestled with, but didn't resolve, complicated questions about how to determine whether a president's conduct is official or unofficial, or a complicated mix of both. Yeah, it's hard to determine because they're pretty much official when they're done in public. When he's speaking to the public as the public voice of America. Okay. In the panel's majority opinion, Srinivasan wrote that a president who takes controversial official actions at the margins of his powers, moves that could conceivably be viewed as unlawful, is actually more deserving of immunity from private lawsuit than a president making remarks that may mix politics and policy. Wait a minute. So first of all, he borrowed this. He borrowed this language where acts at the margins merit more protection. They don't merit more protection. They merit more deference. And that's from the original ruling on civil immunity, because they said that these acts that are at the margins are the ones that aren't as obvious and need the protection, and that the protection should be sweeping and completely nullify the charges against the president. So like they're saying he's like came up with this, but he misinterprets it and says, well, it's more deserving of immunity from private lawsuits than a president making remarks that may mix politics and policy. No. So what they're saying is, what this guy is saying, based on how I read this and how they're reporting it, is that there's these core acts of the president, which are definitely protected. And then there's these acts here, which is where he is, that mix policy and politics. And then there's another circle of the fringe of presidential activity. And the fringe deserves more protection. The inner circle deserves less protection. And then the super inner circle deserves all the protection, I guess. But that's not what it said. And that doesn't make any sense. How could something farther away from presidential duty be deserving more protection for immunity than something closer? This ruling is fucking stupid. But hey, that's where we are every time. Immunity cannot serve its intended purpose if it is withheld when a president would need it most, i.e. when a president might refrain from undertaking some course of official action because of uncertainty about whether it could give rise to damages liability. Yeah, like calling out the election when his opponent might be winning it due to fraud, and then might come after you by you not being liable, or by you not being immune from liability after you point out the fraud. I see, again, this contradicts. What he's saying is contradicting what he's intending, apparently. Under the court's ruling, the case may now return to federal trial court, where U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta first ruled Trump could be sued for his January 6 remarks in February of 2022. But before that happens, he could appeal the immunity decision to the full bench of the D.C. Circuit or the Supreme Court. He'll probably do, I shouldn't say what he'll probably do. I would do the en banc hearing first and then go to the next one, because I think he wants to delay it out. But maybe he wants to go sooner. Maybe he just needs to go straight to the Supreme Court. I'd probably want to go straight to the Supreme Court in principle. But you know, what do I know? The opinion from Srinivasan, an appointee of President Barack Obama, was joined in full by Judge Greg Katsas, a Trump appointee. However, Katsas also filed a brief opinion of his own, emphasizing that while speeches at political events are normally official, there could be rare cases where comments made at such an event were official and immune from suit. They're not even rare cases. Katsas noted that President George W. Bush's first public response to the September 11th, 2001 attacks came as he read a book to school children. Had that event been a political rather than official event, and had the president immediately responded with an off-the-cuff statement to rally or console the nation, I have little doubt that the response would have been official, the judge wrote. The third jurist on the panel, Judith Rogers, endorsed only part of the panel's majority opinion. She suggested that Trump's claim he was acting in an official capacity was without merit, said her colleagues were wrong to tell Meta to stagger the litigation so that Trump will have a chance to muster facts to prove he was acting officially in his speech on January 6th. So she took the hard left position. No, he's wrong and he should go to prison forever. Under the circumstances, it is unnecessary to inquire into the president's motives in order to conclude that his actions did not constitute an official function of his office, wrote Rogers, an appointee of Bill Clinton. The record suggests no reason for this court to direct the order of the district court's proceeding on remand. Rogers also curtly dismissed portions of her colleagues' opinions as premature, wow, that's rude, and unenforceable dictum. The D.C. Circuit decision, which was eagerly awaited by attorneys handling a wide array of Trump legal fights, came nearly a year after the appeals court held oral arguments over the Jan 6 suits. That's about 3 times what it typically takes the court to resolve an appeal. So that's that. We are going to go into the civil question here in just a minute. But we got to get over to Rumble before we do that. Or sorry, the criminal question. The criminal question followed that decision by 12 hours. We're going to talk about it. The criminal judge, Chutaclan or whatever, she's been fucking waiting for the appeals court to rule this way so that she could get out her stupid ruling, denying criminal immunity. That one is going that one's got to go to the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court has to determine first whether or not criminal or liability immunity applies to criminal cases for a president. That's never been determined. It's been kind of assumed. We'll talk about that as we go, but they got to make that question first. Even if they think that Trump is liable, they have to answer that question, or they should answer that question. I guess I shouldn't say have to in regards to the Supreme Court. They kind of have some ability to decide their own shit, I guess. But the crazy thing is what all this can do though, right? Like imagine the turmoil of all this shit. This is an ad. I'm transitioning to an ad right now. I'm transitioning. I've gone into the doctor and I'm like, I need to go from my show into an ad. All right. So, decisions of politicians and presidents and justices even can bring things into crisis and catastrophe, afraid or whatever you should be. But actually, all joking aside, we have seen some weird events over the past couple of years where it's not like the country's going to fucking die immediately, but things do get kind of uncertain and hectic. And there is a helpful solution, of course, that I have for you right now. And it is the wellness company, twc.health/knows. Now, what the hell is the wellness company? Well, they're a company that has a broad array of medical products and services. In this particular case, I'm talking about one thing, which is this crisis kit that they've got, right? Like, because of presidential crisis, COVID, China, North Korea, whatever crisis you've got. I've seen some pretty good ones, some wonderful crises. The wellness company, they got wonderful things. Look, they sell this kit. It's an emergency medical kit. It's got 8 different medications, right? I think so. Let me read the info I have about it. So, 8 life-saving medications that every American should keep in your cabinet. It's like having a pharmacy at home when you need it. So it includes antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, like amoxicillin, ivermectin. Oh, can we even say that on YouTube? It's got a Z-Pack. It's got a guidebook to tell you how to use all this. I actually pulled up like all of the different meds that are in there. But really what you need to know is you've got antiviral shit, antibacterial shit. You've got these. Let's just do it. Let's just check. Where are we? Here we go. The hell's in here again? So we've got amoxicillin. We've got the Z-Pack thing. We got doxycycline hyclate. I don't know what that is. Metronidazole, which is generic Flagyl. Ivermectin. Generic Bactrim. I don't know what that is. Diflucam and Zofran. Basically, you have some these kits come with some packs to help out if illness occurs, and really, we're talking about in some sort of crisis, right? We're talking about this idea that you might not be able to get to medicine for whatever reason. Maybe it's COVID related. Maybe it's some other government shutdown. Maybe it's just a fucking hurricane and you can't get to a doctor and someone gets sick and you got to do something about it. This kit's there so you don't have to try and rely on your doctor and pharmacy to get it. They're not cheap, but hey, it's medicine. Medicine isn't cheap, but it's also not super expensive. I think they're $250 or something. And if you use promo code NOSE, you get 10% off of that, which is cool. Always fun. But to get that, it's twc.health/nose. And again, they're just looking to help you get hooked up with these kits that you can keep around for an emergency. You hope you never need them. But if you do, I tell you, man, I could have used some of these fucking drugs when I had COVID the first time, and my doctor's like, well, sorry, you're not old enough, you're not fat enough, and you're not a minority. So you don't get to get the medicine. I'm like, well, can I try though? Can I like fail at jumping jacks, or can I go get arrested? Like, what do I need to do to become eligible? And they're like, you're not going to get them. You don't get the drugs. I was like, but I want to get healthier, like fast, because COVID was fucking rough on me. I was in bed for like 10 days. Felt like I'd been beaten up by a pack of midgets. It's not good. So that's what this is for. It's out there for you guys to keep around the house. Grab one of these packs, grab a couple of them, depending on how many people are in there. And if there's some crisis, if you can't get to medicine, it's just about being prepared. You keep first aid kits around. This is the type of shit that's the Uber first aid. Uber first aid kit. When things go really wrong at the worst times, and they always do, right? That's when they do it. So twc.health/nose. That is how you can get to that wellness company page. Ordering your kit, add promo code NOSE at checkout, and you can get a further discount. All right, guys, we're going to hit some super chats on YouTube here, close those out, and head on over to Rumble. And then we'll continue over there. All right. Just Joy says, hey, Rackets, Gitsy, which is good to see you, I think. Hey, good to see you too. DJ Madiro says, quote, you can vote your way into socialism, but you have to shoot your way out. Quoting George Orwell. 47 Arbach, 427 Arbach says, hi, Nick, my favorite. Hi, I'm on YouTube. Whoops. But I can't say subhuman parasite lawyer, right? Yes. Love you, Nick. I'm appropriately drunk for the stream. Good. That's what I approve of. Jamor says, feels like such obviously biased BS decisions like this will lead to civil war if it keeps up. This is the problem with political prosecutions in general. That's why I disagree with them. Yes, incumbent presidents, former presidents often should be considered above the law in many cases to avoid punishing your political enemies and bringing about actual violence. John Wayne says, YouTube gave me a 1-day pause from commenting because of hate speech. Told them to go fuck themselves. Already experienced shadow banning and comments vanishing for the most innocuous reasons. Hello, Rumble. Phil T. Kuntz says, Nick, stop lying. We know you took last night off to watch Lady Ballers. I heard Matt Walsh got paid $500K for his role. Sucks to be you, I guess. Sure does. That'd have been great, I guess, to be in that. I mean, I guess I would have done it for $500K maybe. And then Ridge says, thank you for streaming tonight. I really appreciate your commitment to your fans. Fans should realize streaming takes a backseat to your personal life. Hope all is well with you and your family. People have not been complaining to me about things. Hopefully I laid it out on Friday just well enough that it was not my desire to cancel the show. I really didn't want to at all. But sometimes things just make it so a show's not going to work out. All right, guys, we are going to pop over to Rumble. We are going to pop over to Rumble right now, which means YouTube, your show is ending. If you want to follow us over there, the link is in the description. It is also in the pinned comment by Jay Liebgott. Please click over, follow us over there if you haven't been there. If you don't watch on Rumble, I will see you next time. Yes, that's an acronym for you cunt. Just kidding. We'll see you over there, and we'll continue the show in just a minute. Until then, peace.